Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu salam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halan wa salam bikum. Well, my dear brothers and sisters on the Rama, and I will embark today on a program talking about the probably little known Accra Initiative. And it is a initiative that affects the Fulani community all the way around. And one of the most damaging factors to this is that this little known initiative is calling on, again, the same formula that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, garnering funds from the West to fund police forces. And then those forces then go and maraud the Fula community in particular. Even though they, again, use the catch-all by saying you, me, anybody who is Fula, maybe even Hausa, and in certain areas, Bambara, and that we are all linked to the ISIS or to the AQ. Then that way they have a justification to kill you and to kill me on sight. And these initiatives are very unbecoming of our leaders. But it goes to show you the depth of the corruption of our leaders and the how low they will go to in order to secure funds and get enriched from those funds. And then those who suffer, again, are the Fulani people in particular, because they're the ones bear the brunt of this. So, well, let me give you my felicitations. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. Lil-Ikhwani wati fi din wa salamu ala mani teba huda lil-Ikhwani wati fi Africa, Europa, America, Caribbean wa kulli makan. Andarama, my dear brothers and sisters in the Fulbe community, and salam to all my brothers and sisters worldwide, wherever you may be. And so we look at something. I'm going to bring up here a map here of the region of the Sahel. Now, those who've been following my talks understand the breadth and the depth and the problem that we face in the Sahel. And it's not a small area. Again, you see this map here, which delineates how large this area is. And it's at least 2.5 times bigger than the United States. And then you see the Western coastal states. They are in the position now to where they are very nervous because of what is happening in the Sahel and the Savannah regions. And so they have, again, illicit, funds to combat, quote unquote, jihadism and so forth and so on. Who we have here, my brother. Oh, how you doing, my dear brother? African Maverick. Anjarama, my dear brother. Thank you for showing up. And Amina, my dear sister, salam alaikum, brakmatul lakatu, lil Okti Karima. Thank you very much for showing up. And, brothers and sisters, we have to always organize ourselves to understand our brothers and the plight of our brothers who are living in this Sahel region. We should be made aware of what's happening with them, because it's not right that we remain ignorant and uncaring. They are our brothers. They're Muslims on top of that. And so we should care about their plight, and especially programs like this, it gives them a blanket authority to kill us. And this is why we need to talk about to expose it. And this region is so large and it's so encompassing, and it won't be tamed by the bullet. And this initiative, my brothers and sisters, is so misguided. It is beyond belief that our leaders will stoop this low in order to garner funds and in order to kill off Islam. Because this is one of the things that is behind this as well. So when these West African leaders in particular get up there, even some of our Muslim leaders get up there to talk about Islam, they're not correct, and they're not forthcoming what they really feel, because they will not join to these type of initiatives in order to stamp out Islam, but they have. So, and when we look at this, again, brothers and sisters, we have to look at this situation as it is. Again, you've seen this picture before, but it's indicative. Here we have a brother on our right-hand side here who's under the thumb, and we have another brother on the left-hand side here under the thumb of the Americans, and so forth and so on. And here they're in the Sahel region. But we know now that the Russians are playing a big role, and the Russians are taking the lead as far as brutality against the Fulani people. And we know we have now proven this. And there's some other cases I'll get into another time. But we know that when I say Russians, I shouldn't say them, because it's the Wagner group, because it's not the Russian population. It's the Wagner group, the mercenaries, who are heavily involved. But our government, the American government in particular, is involved in that funding and training these security forces, who in turn kill us. So we can't ignore this fact of the matter. And we are bearing the brunt of this situation. And when we look at this, we see the funding leads to this thing like this. You have seen this picture in the past, where again, our brothers are being slaughtered, and the cattle being slaughtered, and then are wrestled from them and sold, and to enrich these security forces. And this is an out and out shame when we really think about it. And so now when we look at something like this, we ask the question again. The many people say, well, why are the Fulani fighting? Would you see what has happened? The last couple of weeks, I give you the cases on what has happened, why our Fulani brothers are fighting, because this type of thing like this. And it's unfortunate, brothers and sisters, that we have that. And of course, we have our brothers who are now involved in this, and they're trying to, what can I say? They're trying to right or wrong, but they themselves are wrong in some of the things they're doing, because they're retaliating. And when they retaliate, they are vicious in their retaliation, because they have suffered losses themselves. So they go and reciprocate what has happened to their families, which again, as you heard me say, under the Sharia, it's wrong. We cannot do this. We have no right under the Sharia to do this. So we have to be very, very careful when we do retaliations. And this is why we need our scholars and our learned intellectuals in Islam to explain. But they are being blocked off to get access to these groups. And there's a reason for that, because our scholars and our intellectuals can bring forth the right thing. So we have to see that for what it is. I gave you this thing here, about Mali, and Mali is intertwined with all of this, because this initiative affects the Sahel region. And foreign fighters, we know who they are now. We know these are Toubab fighters from various European and of course American and whatnot. And then these foreign fighters are involved in this mass murder that has happened here in the last couple of years and across the Sahel region. So I brought you up to speed again on this, on these facts, on why the Fulani community is in dire straits, because we have these type of things happening. And boy, I mean, every time you turn around, they have a new initiative, and thousands, I mean, not thousands, but millions are pumped in. And I give you some of the highlights, what has happened. The president of Ghana, made some comments in the last meeting that they had here, which was approximately now 7 months ago. where they were trying to garner funds to fund these activities. He said that West Africa continues to suffer from effective scourge of terrorism and violent extremism, spreading rapidly across the region. Okay, I'll just read this and I'll comment about something because I want you to think about what he is saying here. West Africa continues to suffer from effective scourge of terrorism and violent extremism, spreading rapidly across the region, he says. Today, the terrorist groups, emboldened by their apparent successes in the region, are seeking new operational grounds. Development that trigger the southward drift of the menace from the Sahel to the coastal West African states. That this is what he said, but he did not mention in this. Again, he's focusing the Fulani herdsmen. They all lump again with with the ISIS and so forth and so on. The ISIS and the AQ, you heard me talk about this for weeks, pose a small threat to West Africa. Brothers and sisters, we have to tell you as it is. I explained that to you. They don't have the numbers nor the will. It's not their fight. They came in only to inflict, and that's it. You notice even when strong Muslims are in government, they still kill them too. See, so the AQ and the ISIS is no immediate threat to West Africa. Period. They are not. They cannot take over this part of the landscape. And as you heard me say last week, and I stand by this. And our brothers who are in the Ulama, the scholarly body of Islam, they'll tell you the same thing. Nobody backs them. And we want them out of the area because they are not in this to put in the right governance. They're in here for other things. So they have no business being here. And we said this time and time again. And we do not like what they're doing when they set pipe bombs here, or when they blow up people here, or they orchestrate kidnappings. We're against this. Okay, we know what the Sharia law says about this. So, but our leaders use them as a vehicle to attack our population and do this to them. These people here who were raided and killed off and their cattle, they're not AQ. They're not even ISIS. See, so they use that as a guide to kill. So I wanted to give you some of these factors as we move on in this case. And I want to add here, if I can find it. Well, I don't see it here. Where is it at? Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I'll try this.
Are the Fulanis better than us? Can they shoot better than us? Can they do the military and police job more than us? They say they are guerrilla tactics, they are guerrilla fighters, and they are going to ambush you and shoot you. Please, I beg you in the name of God, nobody should die in the bush as a police or soldier or whatever. We are going back with our number and come back with our number. And to be safe, if you see anybody holding arms, want to attempt you, please don't waste time.
Brothers and sisters, because I want to remind you again, this is funded under the Accra Initiative. If you heard what he said these famous words, "Are the Fulani better than us?" He said it 3 times. And he went out to go to hunt down the Fulani herdsmen, and they had a big shootout. And what my understanding, what happened in this case, a few of their people were killed. And again, the Fulani have been suffering, as you've been hearing me talk about the Ghana case. They've been suffering from marauding a lot from these so-called security police like this guy here. So this initiative is designed basically to do this, to fund them so they can kill Fulani people. And this is about to stamp out Islam, because they're worried about West Africa is slowly becoming Islamic, and they can't stop it. It's going to happen. So they use these initiatives as a smokescreen in order to stop out Islam. So Then I want to go back into other things. During the another meeting dealing with this, we had a so-called expert who was at this meeting, and he said that the fight against terrorism in West Africa will be meaningless unless leaders involve ordinary citizens to give tips, among other things. Remember, I talked about this. If you know, it's funny how nearsighted our leaders are. This brother here made a good point. He says, in order for it to be effective, we need to engage the population. They won't do that. And the population he's more or less talked about is the Islamic population, because these are Muslims who they're targeting. These are Muslims who are fighting them. So we are better known to know them than they are, because these guys are not leaders, or if they are, I mean, they're not Muslims. If they are Muslims, they're modern and secularist, as you hear many of them talk about democratic ways of mean, and they basically shun the Sharia law. I won't get into the ramifications of this part of the Nawaqid al-Islam 10. I won't get into that, but we have many of them doing this. And he says, we cannot get up and end it. There has to be proper measures put in place, he says. And he says that there must be a willingness on the part of the leaders to be serious, to disconnect from where the citizens, their input. They are disconnecting that. They don't go to the citizens. They don't go to Muslim leaders. They don't go to Muslim scholars to find a solution to the Sahel problem. They only want to use the bullet. And by, as you heard me say, by them yelling terrorism, this garners money. And you notice people have been getting enriched from these initiatives like this. You're talking about a whole series of people who get enriched. The Europeans and the Americans, the Toubab, they know the corruption on our level. They don't care, because they too want to see the Muslims, because the Muslims provide a clear and present danger to their control. Because if we start running the Sharia law, they're gone, they're out, they're finished. Their marauding for 400 years is finished. So they want to keep in power these type of leaders like this. So they let them get corrupted. So they go and fund them with 30 million US dollars. They know that many of the leaders will put most of this money in the pocket. They don't care, as long as they fight the Fulani and other Muslims and keep Muslims at bay, so that way they can still govern us, you know, indirectly, and take our resources. And this is a big problem. And he's gone on to say the information intelligence sharing has been primarily focused on group as they continue to support from partners to train security and intelligence personnel. Who are they talking about? They're talking about the Toubab security agencies, who they are training the Africans. They're training our African brothers in these matters. And of course, our African brothers who are in these have been ruthless by killing innocent civilians, and they've been going on and on with this. And it says cooperation is key to fighting against terrorism. So which one is the terrorism? See, we have to ask the question, is this terrorism here? If you say yes, it is, but the security forces, the Toubab forces, come to do this to the Fulani people, but they say no, this is not terrorism. And he says here, the cooperation is key when it comes to the fight against terrorism. Well, wait a minute, who's going to fight against the militias who are doing this to the Fulani people? Huh? Who's going to put and corral these guys? See, but they say this is terrorism. When our young men take up arms to combat the Toubab and the security forces of Ghana or Burkina Faso, Mali, and so forth and so on, they call this terrorism. This is why Sheikh Gumi made a point. He said, you know, the one who calls one terrorist, we call them freedom fighters. See, so we have this dilemma of, and again, because it's not well defined, as we know. You have a group of people who are killing. They kill 500 Fulani people. They don't say this terrorism, but those who survive this attack do this and become mujahideen to go fight them back. Then they're classified as terrorists. See, and this is a problem, a big problem. Then he goes on to say the Accra Initiative would be more effective when leaders invest in building a database of informants rather than focusing solely on combat. See, now they're getting this again from they have their informants infiltrating all of the Fulani areas. They have this, okay? They have informants. This is not the key to stopping them. See, but when they do things like this, brothers and sisters, they are basically already defeated, because even though they have informants among them, it's not working. Because as long as you keep killing these people like this thing is going to continue to rear its head. He went on to say, now listen to this, brothers and sisters, and I'll move on to my talk. He says hundreds of attacks have been carried out within and around the Sahel by Islamic State and Al-Qaeda fighters, leading to coups and instability in Mali, Burkina Faso over the past 2 years. Brothers and sisters, that's a blatant lie. They have made some things here and there. It's been the slaughtering of the Fulani and the Fulani herdsmen who have been attacking, like the Messina group and some of the other herdsmen group of northern Nigeria and so forth and so on, who have been instrumental in fighting in retaliation against the Ghanaian forces and so forth and so on. So you see this, and the ISIS, and they have made some attacks and they've made some killings here and there, but they have not destabilized the governments. The governments is destabilized is because the rank and file people of Mali and so forth, Burkina Faso, they don't have business opportunities. They don't have schooling. They don't have infrastructure that supports them. They don't have food and so forth and so on. This is destabilizing them, not IS. I'm telling you now, ISIS and AQ pose a small threat, because they will be, as you heard me say, when a major jihad is called, I'm telling you now, you'll see in this region, you see Burkina Faso, you see Niger, you see southern part of Mauritania and places like this. Well, watch what's going to happen. When the Messina group calls off and calls for the major jihad, which is going to happen, you're going to have the Fulani herdsmen from all over, from the Sahel region, going from your left, going to your right, coming to make jihad. They will defeat the AQ and ISIS. And as you heard me say, they have no damn business being in the Sahel. None at all. They should go and return back to Jazira Arab, where they belong. They have no business being here. This is not a racial thing, because we have Africans who have joined us. Boko Haram have joined in on this. This is not a racist thing. What we're talking about here is that their fight and what their aim is dealing more germane with Jazira Arab, meaning the Middle East, not West Africa. Because our West African problem deals mainly with our inept governments and the infrastructure and our fuller community who have had their grazing areas taken. And then we've had the conflict between the farmers again and the herders. This is the conflict we have. IS and AQ have no business in that, because it's not their fight. This is why I'm against them in this particular incident also. They go back to Syria, they go back to Jordan, go back to Iraq and do their thing there, because that's where they belong. That's where their fight is. Our fight, the Fulani people and other Muslims are here in the Sahel. This is our problem, not theirs. But they come in and they make a few little things here and there, and the people our leaders use them as a vehicle to kill us. That's why I want them out. I want them out. And I'm hoping the Messina group in time go to engage them and throw them out. Kill them where they stand or drive them out. That's what I feel, and that's my personal opinion on this problem dealing with the AQ and ISIS. So when we look at this, brothers and sisters, any initiative aims at fighting Muslims unjustly is used by criminal gangs, mafias, solo criminals, drug traffickers, human traffickers to gain immunity by joining this fight and initiative. This initiative, why it's so crooked, brothers and sisters, you heard me talk. I gave you a precursor to this last week. The American terrorism program is a fraud. It's a fraud. Because if it was working, if it was done right, we wouldn't have what we have. You have jihad all over the world now. We talked about that. Okay, we have it all over the world. And when the Americans bring these programs in particular into West Africa and North Africa, who prosper from it is that the criminal gangs, our American government goes in and they empower the solo criminals, the drug traffickers, the human traffickers, all they engage to fight me and other Muslims. And in turn, they gain immunity. This is why you have problems focusing in North Africa in particular, why human trafficking, you have like in West Africa, they have human trafficking where they traffic mostly women. Our sisters are being trafficked out as we speak now. They run through, as long as they are fighting Muslims, they have free sailing and immunity. They're not prosecuted. And this has got to stop. This has got to stop. And as you see, as I talked about the case here with me, I have drug dealers, okay? I have nothing to do with drugs. I'm not a drug dealer. I was in the United States. I'm not a drug dealer. I have nothing to do with them. None whatsoever. But yet they have them follow me to go after me here in Fez, see? And in turn, they gain immunity because you can't touch them because they say, well, we're on the fight of terror. And I offer to you again, as a Muslim, as a black man, as a Fulani, as an African, where is my army if they claim that they're fighting terrorism? And I know for sure that my brothers here that's working in I'm talking the rifle police, they would have taken me a long time ago because terrorism here is not tolerated. It's not, I mean, if you know anything about what's happened here in Morocco, it is not tolerated. It's not tolerated at all. So they use this as a smokescreen. And these people here, drug traffickers, human traffickers, common solo criminals who rob and steal people, they engage all of these people to come after Muslims. This is why these type of initiatives are fraud. They're fraud. And it's designed to empower these groups here. These groups receive immunity and protection under the American and European terror programs. When I go to complain about these drug dealers and these criminals, I take pictures of them. I give them to the courts. And I say, this is what they're doing. I show video. This is what they're doing. Their cars, who they are, where they're at. They can't touch them because the American product, the program and the money that they fund is propelling this. So they can't do anything about it. And so these entities rush to join because they realize they go to the drug dealers and the traffickers and say, hey, look, you want to do your business? You come join with us, but you go fight the Muslims and you gain your immunity. And this is what they're doing. And they do this as a business investment and protection and a screen. So that way they can go ahead and do the criminal activity. This is wrong. So I've heard many times they come to me and it's incredible. I have had people come walk up to me and they're, would hate because some Toubab American out of the embassy has talked to them and told them lies. So I go to talk to them and I talk to them. And I try to explain to them what they're doing. And then they start to kind of figure it out. And I said, look, I'm walking to the masjid. Now, do you see me with the AQIS? Do you see a whole bunch of people with guns going to the masjid with me? You don't see that. When you see me go home, when you see me leave the house to go shopping for my family, have you ever seen me go to buildings where I'm going places to formulate against the government, against the king? No, they have not. But the Americans push this. And so the other ones take this and they say, okay, we can use that so I have protection. This is wrong, brothers and sisters. That's why I'm exposing it. It's wrong. In Ghana, the initiative is the same thing. Criminals, Islamicphobia individuals profit off this because now they can kill Muslims and get immunity for it. And it's wrong. It protects their criminal enterprises. Remember, I told you the last couple of weeks, I've had these miscreants laugh because they say, when you come to the area to live, I'm protected now. they can do their activities because no one's going to come after them because everybody is focusing on fighting me because the Toubab coming out of the embassy has got the area surrounded. And they talk, and I mean, if you hear it, you'll think that I got a brigade of terrorists running around here. This is a devil's deception because they use the devil and to convince the people. Strong Muslims are never convinced this way. You can't walk up to, that's why, like the scholarly or strong devout Muslims, they walk up to them, they're going to laugh at them. But when people are misguided, this is why, and they don't have jobs, they listen to them, they know it's a lie, but they'll take the money from them anyway to go and do what they have to do under them. These initiatives, like the Accra Initiative, is similar to that. The people know it's a lie, but they have no jobs. They're poor. They have no other income, so they go to do it. Some of them are not criminals, okay? Many of them are not criminals, but they'll take these jobs in order to put food on the table. See, we know that that's the other angle to this. The Fulani community is the main target of under this initiative. Again, brothers and sisters, these initiatives across the Sahel, the Fulani bears the brunt of it. We're the ones being killed off as we speak now. Since this initiative doesn't address the African and it's marauding. It's funny. They talk about terrorism, but they don't talk about their role. They're not providing providing jobs and so forth and opportunities for our African youth. See, and so this leads to their problems. It's not the Fulani who's hurting his cattle. That's not the problem, but that's a facade in order to gain money. It only addresses the retaliatory response of the Fulani. Again, brothers and sisters, you have the three major groups. You have the Afro-Arabs, you have the Afro-Tuareg, and you have the Fulani in particular. They have been instrumental in jihad since the 700s. So they understand that. So they pick on these particular three groups because they know that they will react. That way they can garner the funds. They can have the Accra Initiative. They can have this initiative here. They can have the G5. They can have all of these, joint conferences and everything and garner millions. And they get enriched, brothers and sisters. They get enriched for this. They get very, very enriched. It's a game. It's a fraud. And as far as I'm concerned, these people who die in this state, they're going to go to the fire because this is a big fraud. You go and you kill people in order for you to enrich your pocket. It's a devilish act. Secondly, this initiative is seeking millions from the Toubab Western. See, again, you see this initiative. If you read what the president of Ghana said, he said that they are seeking this. And the Toubab comes to these conferences. They're there. See, these Toubab are there at these. See, oh yeah, okay. They come and you see one over here to your far right, and so they come and then you see they have their meeting and of course they put their 2 cents in it, and then after they come back from the meeting, they send this money, and this money is funded, and these programs are funded. And boy, we have new millionaires every time. When this money come in, the cronies come. This guy had nothing before is now a millionaire. He takes his cut of the pie, and the other one takes his cut of the pie. You see them suddenly buying big 3-story villas with cars and with servants and so forth. So on. For money like this, they're supposed to be fighting the Fulani people. See, and so this is I'm exposing these things for what they are, brothers and sisters. It's a fraud. Okay, it's the bottom line. It's a fraud. It's a shame, but it's fraud. This is proven. This money goes to the pockets of our African leaders and our security leaders. In the mix, these rogue actors rehire the Toubab Western powers. Brothers and sisters, you'll hear me good on this. 40 million come in, say, to this Accra Initiative. I'm just saying, for instance, 40 million come in. The Sahelian governments who are involved in this take, say, one leader takes a certain amount of millions and so forth and so on, right? Then they turn back around and rehire the Toubab. So he gets his cut of the money as well. So he puts his soldiers and his mercenaries to come into the country to fight. These in turn go and buy guns, bullets, uniforms, other weaponry, and so forth out of this money. It's a game, brothers and sisters. It's a financial venture, and the Fulani are the targets or the pawns in it. And this money then goes away. When you finally see the rank and file soldier, you'll find these soldiers are dirt poor. You'll see this type. Now, you would think when they garnered 40 million, how he would be dressed in what? And beautiful modern uniforms. But this is how most of these security people look like this. They have bad weapons. See, and these people like this, they're poor. They see this as an opportunity, but a lot of times they're killed in the process too. It's a vicious cycle, brothers and sisters, a vicious cycle. And now you see what I'm talking about. See, however, rightful agents of justice are exposing these roguish initiatives. We have Africans across the board, brothers and sisters, exposing these initiatives and what they are. Their mass killing of innocent Fulani people and children is being exposed. It's being exposed, brothers and sisters. And this is why I'm saying to you now that they sit there and call this terrorism. And when the Fulani people retaliate, then they'll come up with some type of thing, and it says here, the culminating the Accra Initiative, the group of 7 West African states after Mali and Niger joined in 2019, agreed to create a military force, as you see, they're killing, to fight jihadists who have destabilized the region. The AQ and IS, brothers and sisters, you hear me good on, you do your research. The AQ and IS are a small fraction. Yes, they are dangerous and they're criminal. But have they destabilized Mali? No, they have not. What has destabilized Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger is what? The conflict between the herders and what? And the farmers. And the corruption in the governments. This is to stabilize this. That's why I'm saying this is a roguish initiative in order to gain funds. The AQ and IS, again, brothers and sisters, hear me out good, are nothing in West Africa. They can only do a few things here and there, but they use them to kill you and me. See, this is why I want them out, because they should go back to the Zaire where they belong. Let them go there and fight for Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon and Iraq. That's their area. This is my area. The Sahel is ours. And we have our problems. So when they come in as interlopers into the Western landscape, they see this. And our West African governments see this. The Toubab see it, and they use that as a vehicle to begin to burn out the Fulani, because now they have an excuse. They go after me when I come out to go to masjid. They say, "Oh, you part of AQ, you part of ISIS." It's incredible, isn't it? They say I'm part of AQ and ISIS. I mean, just because they see me with a beard and so forth and so on. So the whole thing, brother, says you see how bad, how devilish, this is a devilish deception these initiatives are. And I'm exposing it. And now other rightful Africans are also, men and women are exposing these initiatives for what they are as well. These initiatives are weak and unsavory. They don't seek out the Ulama. Why don't they go to our beautiful scholars we have? We have them everywhere. They can come because the insurgents are Muslims. Okay, some are misguided, some are devout, but they listen to our scholarly body. They can come to give them, and I may tackle some of the issues of the Quran talking about them. Okay, but I'm going to pray on this, see if subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm waiting on. Also, I had to send a letter to one scholar I know, and I have a great amount of respect for him. I know he'll give me good guidance, so I'm gonna wait to talk with him about that. But we need to engage them. We do not need to engage more Toubab, because the Toubab is the problem. We don't need the Toubab. And these guys here across the board, the Afro-Arabs, the Afro-Tuareg, the Fulani, the Bambara, none of them want to see a Toubab at the table. They don't care about them because they know what they are. They're kuffar. They don't want to see them at the table. See? So, and then yet our leaders use them. And it's a vicious program. Excuse me for a minute, brothers and sisters. Okay, I'm sorry. I have family talking in the background. I'm sorry. So these initiatives are bad news. And these groups, because they have been killed, don't want to listen to the G5 leaders as well. They don't want them. They don't want to listen to them because they know it's them who's behind killing them. See, and whatnot. Here's again, the president of Ghana made a comment about the activities. He said Islamists, militants keep spreading from Niger to Burkina Faso, Mali to West Africa, coastal regions amidst lingering instability caused by political crisis. They have their own political crisis. They're not giving jobs. They have corruptions inside their governments. They have inflation and so forth and so on. I didn't cause that. You didn't cause that. The Fulani herdsmen didn't cause that. They caused that because they're ineptness. See, but yet still they want to blame the AQ and IS and the Fulani herdsmen for their problems. See, and people are starting to expose them. The Accra Initiative hires non-Muslims. This is funny, isn't it? The initiative hires non-Muslims who are Islamicphobic, like you see in Nigeria. This one program, I told you many times, I listened to this brother. If I stood in front of him, he would kill me probably straight out because he can't stand Fulani. He can't stand Muslims, period. See, they hire those type of people, Muslims, secular and weak Muslims, as foot soldiers who are responsible for mass murders of Fulani. This is a program all the way across. You'll see the people who come to attack even me. I talk to them many times. They have nothing to do with Islam. They say they're Muslims, but they have really nothing to do with Islam. And this is why they can get to them, because they're under the deception of the devil. But can you get to scholars and our intellectuals? No, they know better. You can't walk up to them and tell them, look, I need you to go hit this Muslim inside the masjid. They're not going to do it because they know what this is about. But a weak secular Muslim he's Muslim only by name, but he's left the religion. They can get him to take, $5, $10 to go do a dirty deed inside the masjid. See, and so this is what we're talking about, brothers and sisters. These initiatives use non-Muslim and American misguidance. The Americans come in and they say, if you want the millions, I'll give you 40, I'll give you 50, I'll give you 60 million out of American taxpayer money if you do this. And they have done it. And now, brothers and sisters, what do we have? What do we have now that's brewing? What do we have? We have a full-fledged jihad behind this American misguidance. They orchestrated a program, prejudicial outward appearances, black men with beards, Afro-Arabs, Afro-Tuareg, Fulani, Bambara, Wolof, whatever. And they use that. And they use this as a guide in these initiatives. Ethnic associations. If he's a Bambara, they say, oh, we know he's got to be a terrorist. If we know these guys in the car that said they're Fulani, they know they are. As a vehicle to maraud, arrest, murder Fulani and other. This we know. I've proven that when the UN reports verified this again, that they single out. This is the American program is everywhere. They single out men with beards and say that since he's got a beard, we should kill him. And this is what Mali was been doing, and what this was Burkina Faso's been doing. This is what it's been doing it in Niger, and also in northern Ghana. All across, we have the same thing. So the Americans put a playbook and told them, this is what you do, and this is what you do to go after these people, and I'll give you all this money. See, this is what they have said, and you know, and I'm exposing this game, brothers and sisters, because it is a game. It's a devilish game. If they go to worship in the masajids and read the Quran, this is another vehicle to be. How many intellectuals and scholars, brothers, and Fulani scholars and so forth, so on, have been killed in this manner? They go and they walk to the masjid, they're assassinated. They come out of the masjid, they're assassinated. We have a group of brothers who are reading the Quran. And if you heard me speak, the people who are like this, or like myself, we are the most law-abiding because we know better, because we follow the Sharia law. We don't go to the corners and sell drugs. We don't go and make fornication. We don't go out on our wives. You see? We don't do the things, robbing the people on the street. We don't go and into schemes to rob people and to take their money and take their land. Okay, we don't do this. But we're targeted, and so they put this playbook. They said these people go to the masjid, especially Salat al-Fajr and Salat al-Asr, which is the first morning and the late afternoon prayer. Then he's a terrorist. He should be exterminated. If they're reading the Quran, they should be exterminated. They believe in the Sharia law. If they don't believe in democratic way of looking at things, they're terrorists or associated terrorists. They should be killed. This is the American program, belonging to Islamic groups and organizations who try to get money and perhaps to fund people like in Somalia, where people are needing food and so forth. They're targeted, and many of them are put in jail. And who are non-violent and reactionary. See, this is, again, I'm exposing these so that way you have this edification. You read through the stuff like this. When you see it coming in you know, on news, you'll be able to decipher this. See, and you'll be able to combat it. And we see across now devout Islamic scholars and imams. I mean, they are really suffering as well. And our Fulani scholars are under watch, and they have to be protected. And we have many of them now with guards around them. But the drug dealer, he doesn't have such a problem. The Toubab and our miscreant Africans who go and traffic their own sisters and bring them across the Sahel into Northern Africa, into Europe, and also into the Middle East are going free. Nobody's touching them. Nobody's touching them. See, this is what these initiatives are for, to allow these guys to do these kind of criminal activity. I told you it happened some years back now, almost about 7 years in Mali, where those Frenchmen were caught trafficking our sisters, and the brothers caught them. The Afro Tuaregs caught them in the northern part of Mali, and they executed them. These two Toubab, and they said it was an act of terrorism. But they didn't mention that these guys were caught with about 10 to 12 ladies who were damn near dead in back of a big old van going across the Sahara. Now you think that's how hot it is. And they executed these guys. See, these guys are allowed to function because as long as they talk against Islam, they're okay. Men who are Black Africans, Afro-Arabs, Tuaregs, Pakistanis, Asians, especially Filipinos, all these initiatives are the same, brothers and sisters. They're all the same. They just changed the name. The Accra Initiative, the Sahel Initiative, the Middle East Initiative. All of these initiatives are all the same. They just changed the name. They changed the geographical area, but they're all the same. These initiatives, again, like I said, you know, talk about the appearances. I talked about this, especially with men. I can't emphasize that. Men with beards like this. How many times I've had people come tell me to take it off. And then when I asked them, I said, can you give me the direction under the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that told you to ask me this and say for me to authorize me to do this? They can't. But they say, well, look, this is modern times. What he said was back in the 7th century. This is kufr. And I've had this happen many times. I've talked to many people about this, where they'll come to me and tell me, you remove your imam, you remove your Islamic clothing. That was back in the 700s. They tell me. They say, now this is where you're supposed to act. All of this is disbelief in Islam. And again, brothers and sisters, this type of thing, devout Islamic scholars, Muslims, this thing goes on and on. So the Accra Initiative is a fraudulent attempt to curtail Islam, subjugate the full people, garner funds from the Toubab institution, legalization of marauding and castle wrestling. This is what the initiative does. This Accra Initiative is a fraud, brothers and sisters. It's a fraud. Because you look at it, the Fulani did not destabilize the Sahel governments. It's they themselves. They've had corruption. They stole the money of the people. They're not giving jobs. Crime is rampant now. You see, fraud is rampant. Debauchery is starting to creep up. It's not the common Fulani herder who's manning his 100 to 200 cattle across the Sahara. He has something to do with the Ghanaian government, why their GP is off the charts and why they're suffering from inflation. It wasn't them to cause that, but they're saying that they're ones that it's them who's causing the problems. It's not. It's a fraud, brothers and sisters. The Accra Initiative is nothing more than an attempt to smoke screen so they can get money and they can kill Muslims in behalf of the Toubab, and then they can enrich themselves and their cronies. This is the bottom line. Because when you look at it, you clear the smoke. When you see the inflation running high in Ghana, you ask yourself, what Fulani was responsible for that? None. When you see the debauchery running through Accra, or through Cote d'Ivoire, who was responsible for that? Was with me, you, other Fulanis? No. When the government officials stole millions and they were discovered to have accounts in Switzerland and in the Bahamas and Panama and places like that, was that the Fulani who did that? No. See, so I'm giving this to you straight, brothers and sisters. And these lies. Listen what one of the presidents said here in this meeting. The Sahel has the most rapid growth of violent extremism activity of any region in Africa over the past 2 years, according to the African Center of Strategic Studies. All of these things are frauds. Now, when they killed 500 Fulani, why they didn't talk about that? No. When they killed 300 here about 6 months ago, no, that's just mentioned. When they slaughtered and cut the sister in half about a year ago, that's not mentioned. Fulani sister, the brother, the Fulani brother who built he's having his wealth, he has his cattle, him and his wife and his young children, he was bothering nobody. He was providing meat, milk, his wife was making a lot of products, they were doing very well. Then these people under these initiatives came to me to visit with them. And I told you what they did. It almost brought me to tears. And when the Polaco International exposed it, they took this brother, his wife escaped. She ran and she escaped. And they beheaded every single child in front of him. And here the presidents are talking about extremism, but they didn't mention about their people did this to this Fulani brother in front of him, beheaded his children. See? And again, brothers and sisters, you see what I'm talking about. The Accra Initiative is fraud. It's a fraudulent attempt to curtail Islam and to fight the Fulani. This is it, so they can put money in their pocket. And that's the bottom line. They will create another initiative. And then they'll go to the Toubab and say, we need 30, 40, 50 million. So when they come out of office, the cronies all have millions sitting in offshore bank accounts. security specialists and policemen will be enriched. And they will kill us where we stand. They will beat us in the masjids. They'll beat us when we come out of the house under these initiatives like this. They'll beat us. They'll beat me coming out of here and say that I'm a terrorist. And the people here all get money from these initiatives. They come out and park in front of the house of the scholars. And when the scholar come out, they beat him. Some they beat to death. And these guys get only $5 for doing this under these initiatives. And you hear what he says here, is though I'm causing inflation. I'm causing instability in these nations. How? I'm just one person. And our other brothers who are hurting, what are they doing? Because of their fighting back, yes, that part, now they put their countries in danger for jihad because of what they have done. And we've talked about these groups. And so they are, and the Toubab are instrumental in this. So my recommendations, brothers and sisters, in this, I'm looking at these, there's so many notes. Before I start on my recommendations, brothers and sisters, excuse me for a minute. Let me see my comments here. How you doing, my dear brother? Saeed, thank you for showing up, brother. Thank you very much. Anjurama, thank you for showing up, my dear brother. Here, the hypocrite Western or African leaders, again, kissing the boots of the Toubab. He says, one of the presidents says, the Western nations such as Britain, France, and Germany are withholding or are leaving, okay? And the situation is likely to exacerbate, meaning the poor security situation in West Africa, meaning because the Toubab now are being driven out. They can't defeat these guys. And and what do they do? Look, I'm gonna tell you something, brothers and sisters, you do your research on this. You're starting to find a lot of mulatto babies running across the Sahel. How did these mulatto babies come about? Was it from you, me? I don't create mulattoes. I got 6 children. I got grandchildren, and none of them mulattoes. How are our sisters now sporting in the Sahel region mulatto babies? Because Britain, France, Germany, Americans, Russians are laying the pipe, so to speak, to our sisters and using them as sex slaves and giving them mulatto babies under the Accra Initiative, under the G5 Initiative. See, and we have these mulatto babies cropping up everywhere now. How is that? So now they're being driven out. And so the president's now talking about this. The British Armed Forces minister said Britain and other Western countries continue to be allies and partners with West African states in fighting violent extremism. You know what, brothers and sisters? I will say this in Arabic. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal alayhim. I prayed against them, these countries, because what they're doing is fraudulent. And their soldiers come into the Sahel region and they're producing mulatto children. Why has not been reported? When our sisters complained that they were held as sex slaves for 2 months and now they're pregnant with the baby of one of these Toubab, why is it hush-hushed? Yet and still, I go to the masjid, it's news. I'm accused of terrorism. I'm accused of funding terrorism. I go to the bank to take out money. I've had some of them come to me talking about I'm funding the young men so they can go join ISIS. And yet still, they remain quiet about all the sexual improprieties that is happening in the Sahel region when the Toubab soldiers have come in there, and even our Black African soldiers too, who go to regions there, and then they have relations with our sisters. And they've taken many Fulani sisters. And undoubtedly, we probably have Fulani sisters who have been ravished by some of these Toubab. They are now sporting mulatto babies. See, let's talk it as it is, brothers and sisters. They'll say it's terrorism because I don't support that. I won't support it. See, so I support what is right and what is righteously right. This is not. They're being driven out. As far as I'm concerned, get the hell out. I don't want to see them here anyway. See, so, good riddance. But our African leaders have to do something to change. They have to, brothers and sisters. They got to do something to change, because if not, you heard what I told the other day. The foreign minister, what he said in 5 years, we're going to have an explosion. He believed that the region will be taken by the Islamic groups. He believes that. And all this wickedness from these initiatives is causing that. So my recommendation is setting up a regional body of Islamic scholars and intellectuals. Why our leaders won't use this avenue? They're not going to ask for money. They can't. They don't need to. They're not going to ask for money from the IMF or from the Toubab Americans. They won't ask for that. They're doing it vis-a-vis Allah Ta'ala, because they want to bring peace. So they won't need to be paid. So we have this regional body. We have beautiful scholars from all over the place. Afro-Arabs, Tuareg, Bambara, Mendinka, Mende, Akan, Fante, Hausa. We have all these scholars all over the place here. We get them together and bring them into a body, and where we can start to engage our brothers. Secondly, urge disaffected groups to meet in a protective forum. If the Toubab can have something for the Jazeera Arab to bring the Arabs to the table so they can stop fighting, we can do this in the Sahel region as well. We can have a protective forum where we talk to our brothers who are in jihad. But as Muslim scholars and whatnot, we cannot ask our brothers to bring them to democratic ways of means. This is against the Sharia law. We cannot ask them for that. But we can't ask them to put down their weapons. We can ask them to do that for a time being, but we have to have other things. I'll get into that. 3, then listen to their grievances and seek immediate, compromises and peace in the region. We go talk to them and we listen to why they're upset. We understand why the Fulani herdsmen are upset. We understand it. We understand why the farmers are upset. We understand what is going on in the Sahel region. We need to listen to them. They're Africans. They're not Toubab. This is their land too. Why can't we listen to our brothers who are upset? We need immediate detente to set, in a day so we can have peace in the Sahel region and reach an agreement. Participating states assure interdiction of militias. This is the problem. These our brothers who are in jihad will not put their arms because of this. That's number 5. Because the militias and rogue security entities plus the Toubab mercenaries kill them. That's why they won't put down their weapons. This has to be interdicted. This initiative gives the impetus and funding for the militias and the rogue security entities and rogue Toubab mercenaries to come to kill. See, this is why we have to have something to stop them. We got to stop these guys. We have to have our leaders to put a stop to these militias and all these rogue security specialists and these mercenaries that come in and stuff. Then our brothers can put down the gun. But I will never ask our brothers to put down the gun and a Toubab comes to kill him outright once he gets back in the car because he's not armed. See, no, these guys have to be, their weapons have to be put down as well. Setting up investigative bodies to look at allegations of gross misconduct. Brothers, you heard me talk right now. We should have some governing situation where we got sisters who are 16, 17, 18 with white babies, mulatto babies. Now, they should have somebody to investigate who did this. They don't even have husbands. They were ravished and they were mulatto babies. Or the G5 security Ghanaian soldiers came into Mali, right? And they took advantage of the sisters there. And these sisters got pregnant. We have to have something, set an investigative body to investigate the ravishing of our women. the extraordinary and summary execution of Fulani and forced disappearance. We have many people who are probably in the Sahara or in the ocean dead, thrown in the ocean and they're dead. That stuff has to be investigated. Number 6, participating states assure the block foreign mercenaries involvement. They have to do that. The Ghanaian president, to his credit, did go after Burkina Faso. And they had a rift there because they knew that they used some of their minds to pay off to have the Wagner group come in to fight against the Mujahideen. And he called him in on that and said it was wrong. And they had a little rift. Now they mend this fence with this initiative, and now they come back together again. But they have to block the foreign mercenaries and their involvement. They got to stop that. Because when the marauding stops and they stop the ravishing our women and they put down their weapons, then we can ask our brothers to put down their weapons. But right now, they will not listen to you or me. Our brothers will not, because I'm not going to set up my brother to tell him to put down his gun, and some guy from Wagner kills him. I cannot do that. Because how can we ask our brothers to put down their weapons? How can we do that? How can we ask our brothers to put down their weapons when the Wagner is armed, when the militias and vigilantes are armed, when the police and the security agents are armed? How can we ask our brothers to put down their Kalashnikovs and their AK-47s? How can we ask them to do that when these other groups will not do it? See, we can't do that. We have to have it across the board. We need a moratorium on Mujahideen annexation of land. Now, the Mujahideen are gaining land as we speak through, especially the central part of the Sahel. There, no doubt, Niger and Burkina Faso and also Mali as we speak, there's land being annexed by the Mujahideen. This thing will cause for them to stop the annexing these areas. And also, the excursions against the farmers and military and police, all of this, if we have a complete detente where weapons are thrown down, then we can stop a lot of the other stuff. Create lobby agencies, who routinely investigate grievances in government malfeasance. The Fulani herdsmen, the government will have a funded representatives, Fulani, who will come when they give a call, say, look, I saw Toubab men in cars, and I saw these vigilantes that come in cars. This is what they did to our village. And they took pictures and they would give it to this investigative body who has armed and arresting powers to find out who did this. We don't have that now. And this is why these militias and vigilantes and these Toubab mercenary groups are getting away with murder, because nobody comes after them. Here we're going to create lobbies where you give a phone call and say, look, I got pictures, I got video, I got license plates, I have this is a military guy, there's Toubabs, I got pictures of these guys, this is what they did to our village. And they come to investigate. Don't rely on the UN. UN won't do nothing to help. They are our enemy. The allocation of grazing lands infrastructure support. Remember, this is what is causing this instability in the region. The infrastructure support is bad. For the Fulani, it's horrendous, such as schools, medical. It's almost non-existent for most Fulanis today. That has to be rectified. You cannot do this to them and expect them to be quiet, which they're not being quiet now. You see, they're taken to the sword, right, and they start to fight. We need veterinarian services and routine visits to the herdsmen. All this would help to ease the pain. Revamping and stopping of terror designation. This is the other thing. If you're going to call my brothers terrorists, you're going to call these guys here terrorists. See, but this guy who has killed my brothers and sisters or beheaded some children is not regarded as that. We have to stop this. You can't call me a terrorist and the one here who's acting under the initiative go to kill Fulani, see, is not a terrorist. So we're going to have something across the board to stop all that, curtail this terror designation. Now, in Ghana in particular, and many of the West African states, residency and citizenship assurances. We have Fulani people in particular who have been in regions like this since the early 1800s. How can they not be? They had their children born in Ghana. They had their children born in Cote d'Ivoire. They had their children born in Mali and in Burkina Faso. And how can you ask them who've been born and raised in this region and been in this region for thousands of years, suddenly you take their citizenship from them? How can you do that, brothers and sisters? How can we authorize such a thing? You have a brother who's born here in this region. How can you take a citizenship from him? See, we cannot, but they're doing it. But we have to have some assurances, brothers and sisters, where we bring the citizenship back to our brothers and families, because this is something that we should do. And speaking of that, the African Americans like myself who come over from Africa and so forth and so on, you heard me talk previously, it's very difficult for any of us to get citizenship. We know the Toubab is blocking this. We know that. And also our hypocrite leaders blocking this. I can tell you now, most of the African states will block me from even making entry, even though I have heritage in Sierra Leone. I have heritage in Liberia, in places like that. I have heritage even in Senegal. They will block me. But a mercenary, a killer of Africans can come to any of those countries I just mentioned, no problem, and probably get citizenship without any fanfare. But African Americans, especially intellectuals, scholars, imams, and so forth, learned Islamic leaders like myself and others, we cannot enter into many African states, especially West Africa. They won't let us. They won't let us. They won't let us. See? And so these type of things like this is why we have jihad. This is why we have jihad all over the place, brothers and sisters, because of these injustices. And our African leaders are the ones who are instrumental in causing this type of strife. See? And when they meet like this, we know that they are not acting in the best interest of our African people. They are not. And so these initiatives, as you see, I have at the bottom here, aimed at Muslims, doesn't address mass murders, ravaging of Fulani and Muslim women, killing of men, women, and children, wrestling our cattle. Okay. They don't talk about dismantling of the rogue militias. See, they didn't talk about any of that. They only talk about going after the Fulani, and they use the AQ by saying me, other scholars, imams, all of us belong to the AQ and ISIS. And I hate that when they do that, because they know it's not true, but they use as so that way they can kill us off. And this is why I'm mad when I see these guys. They talk good about the West, but yet they orchestrate these type of initiatives like this, brothers and sisters. And they call people like me, they say I'm part of AQ. They say I'm part of ISIS. And they know it's a lie. And they use that everywhere. Morocco too, the Americans, they're famous for that. If you want to rile up the people in the neighborhood, you go like they do. Oh, you see this guy? He's part of the AQ. He's part of ISIS. They'll say that in order to inflame the people. But see, a lot of the people know who I am. And once they see who I am, then they laugh at them because they know it's a lie. They know it's a lie. They know I don't belong to the AQ. I talk against them. And I talk against ISIS and these groups like this because I know the Sharia. And they're operating outside of that. But in order to flame the people, they do this. So this is why I'm exposing, again, the Americans and their program and these initiatives like this, brothers and sisters, because it's fraudulent, okay? It's a fraudulent attempt to go after Muslims and to gain wealth from it. And when these things are starting to be exposed, we find certain leaders with fat bank accounts in Switzerland, some in the Bahamas, some in Panama. They took money from these initiatives like this. See? So we know what all these initiatives are about. But all the while, people like me are shot at. Fulani brothers and sisters in the Sahel region are killed and beheaded. 500 of us are slaughtered because of these initiatives. 300 of us are slaughtered. We've had 25,000 here about a year ago taken from because of these type of G5 initiatives. 25,000 people got rich off that. See, so I'm exposing another aspect of this again, brothers and sisters. And, and this is what, I have to do this because I have to, because as Muslims, I don't have no army behind me. I don't have that. But let me tell you something. I'll close here because I've been long today. The Islamic rule is close. It's coming. I'm talking about worldwide. Because we have parameters that our prophets set talking about this. And those things are being met. And in event two, we're having things happen in the space. Have you noticed what's been going on now? If you look at the ancient Egyptians, our brothers, I know there's a big storm talking about the Egyptians today because they're trying to say that the ancient Egyptians were Toubab, and that's almost laughable. And even one of the guys who got in there and used the N-word to say that the ancient Egyptians, they had black skin, but they weren't the N-word. See, and they wrote about the presence of extraterrestrials above them. I believe these people, these up there, are hovering around the facilities in Russia, China, and United States in particular, France, Britain, nuclear sites, and other places. They're starting to find them there. So we have a lot of things happening around us now. The Islamic rule is coming. Even if you like it or not, it's coming. And we will have prosperity under it, according to what our Prophet ﷺ has said. And his guideline has been perfect. And if you notice something he said too, he said one of the coming signs is that time is flat, the time is gone by. Brothers and sisters, I look, the time is quick. The days seem to be shorter. And when you wake up one day, it's Monday, and you wake up another day, it's already Friday. I've been seeing that. And we're starting to see this. We're starting to see now things going across. There's sightings all over the place of these extraterrestrials coming from the sky, things we can't explain. We have things going on in the ocean that can't be explained as well. But our prophet made something to give us something about that when he said that the ocean bodies don't mix. He said this 1,400 years ago. And in recent times, the scientists proved that our prophet was correct when he said they saw this and he said it's right. They don't mix. The water that comes from fresh water that comes into the ocean, it doesn't mix with ocean water. They found this to be true. These are signs to tell us that the Islamic way is coming. In my personal opinion, I believe this going on in the space and what's coming down here is they're sent by Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. I believe they're going through some kind of portals that make it so they can come from where in the galaxies where they're coming from. They're orders from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. I believe this. They're going through these portals of time that he has orchestrated, and they're coming here. There won't be no nuclear wars because they will destroy these things before it happens. And there's things that's happening in space. I won't get into that as well. But I believe they will be supplementing the Islamic army that will come in the near future here. And there will be one. Under the Mahdi, it will come. And I believe they will be augmented, because one of the scholars who saw something, he said, he's dead now, some years back, he said that there will be some entities who will come and they will dismantle all the satellites in the sky. We're starting to see that. They won't be able to use these satellites. It will go back to hand-to-hand combat again, he said, because they won't be able to use these satellites anymore. We're starting to see that. See? So I'll leave you with that, brothers and sisters, today with this last episode. And again, do your research. I will entertain any suggestions, and all our brothers and sisters who show up in the future and stuff. I appreciate your support and everything. And my sister Mina, my dear brother Saeed, thank you for showing up. African Maverick as well, and my brothers and sisters who will show up here in the near future and so forth. If you guys like my talks, it's hard hitting. Yes. If you like my talks, please subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. Because I try to give you the truth. I try to give you something that you don't get in other places. I'm hard hitting. Yes, I expose things when the Muslims do things right, when the Fulani do things right, when they do wrong. I try to give directions so we can understand that. And this is my job to do that as a Muslim and as an elder. I have to do these type of things like this, and I feel compelled to educate the black man and black woman and others too, all my brothers and sisters, the human race, who are receptive to this. And so if you like these type of talks, please subscribe, brothers and sisters. It's greatly appreciated. And so I'll leave you with that. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Anjarama.